Last episode, I faced my very first real trial as an apprentice. We were ordered to build a working circuit under pressure, and at first I stumbled. My conduit was cut too short. My screwdriver slipped from my hand, and the laughter of my classmates cut deeper than any wire. But humiliation became fuel. I slowed down, measured carefully, tested the wires with a voltage tester, and warned others of the danger. Step by step, our team finished the circuit. And when the bulb finally lit up, the room erupted in cheers. For the first time, I wasn't just the outsider. I was John the apprentice who made the light shine. That night, the glow of the bulb still burned in my mind. I told myself that if I could light a circuit, I could master the tools themselves. I opened my notebook and filled it with words, repeating them until they sounded like a litany. Wire stripper, voltage tester, conduit bender, fish tape. They were no longer just vocabulary, they were stepping stones. I swore to myself that the next time I touched them, I would not simply hold a tool, I would command it. The next morning, the training hall felt more like an arena than a classroom. Rows of tables lined with toolboxes gleamed under harsh lights. Apprentices shifted nervously, whispering about who would fail, who would shine. My palms sweated as I stepped forward. When the signal was given, I opened my toolbox and reached for the first tool. The wire stripper felt heavier than expected, its jaws gleaming like the fangs of some beast. My hands shook, but I forced myself to remember the cheers, the light, the respect I had won. I positioned the wire pressed, and heard a clean click as the insulation slid off in one perfect piece. That sound silenced the whispers around me. In that instant, the word from my notebook became truth. Wire stripper removes insulation from wires. Next came the voltage tester. A simple tool, yet one that could decide between life and death. I touched it to the wire, and the tiny red light blinked to life. But to me it was more than just a light, it was awareness itself. It was as if the tool whispered, "I will protect you if you listen to me." I finally understood why its definition had been drilled into us. Voltage tester checks if a wire is live. That phrase was no longer just a rule. It had become a voice I could feel in my bones. Then came the tool that haunted me, the Conduit Bender. The moment I gripped it, shame rushed back the crooked bend from before, the laughter, the humiliation. My first attempt bent awkward again, and laughter erupted behind me. For a second I felt myself breaking. But then, from somewhere deeper, a memory surfaced. Tools are partners, not enemies. I steadied my breath, adjusted my stance, and pushed with patience instead of brute force. Slowly, steadily, the conduit curved into a perfect arc. Silence spread through the hall, and then applause thundered around me. That day, I did not only bend metal, I bent my fate. The last tool was the fish tape. Overconfident from my success, I yanked too hard, and the steel whip lashed out like a snake, startling Tommy so badly he almost fell. Laughter roared through the hall again. My face burned. But I remembered the lesson. The wire stripper rewarded accuracy. The voltage tester rewarded awareness. The conduit bender rewarded control. What did the fish tape demand? Patience. I steadied my breathing, slowed my movements, and guided the tape carefully. This time it slid smoothly, pulling the wire through like water flowing down a channel. The laughter faded, and applause rose once more. And another truth etched itself into me. Fish tape pulls wires through conduit. By the time the test ended, I had learned more than words. These tools were not objects of steel and plastic. They were teachers. They demanded respect and punished arrogance. They rewarded patience and punished haste. When my mentor approached me, his gaze carried weight, and his words carved themselves into my heart. Today, slow and careful apprentice becomes tomorrow's most reliable journeyman. As I stood there, something extraordinary happened in my mind's eye. My toolbox glowed, and from it emerged a golden tool belt, sturdy and shining, fastening itself around my waist, as if it had always belonged there. It was more than leather. It was a symbol of the reward for accuracy, patience, and control. That day I walked out not just as a nervous apprentice, but as John, a man who had truly stepped onto the path of the electrician. Even now, I remember the tool belt, not on my hips but on my spirit. It carried the weight of knowledge, the pride of perseverance, and the promise of more trials to come. The applause of my classmates echoed in my chest. Even Tommy's sneers could not erase my victory. But as I savored that triumph, fate was already preparing its next lesson. I did not know then that the very next tool I picked up would betray me. I did not know that the snap of a broken drill bit would silence the entire site. I did not know that humiliation could return so quickly, or that the broken drill itself would become my greatest teacher. Next time, I will tell you how that drill broke, how the sharp crack of steel became a whisper in my ear, and how I learned that every tool has a voice. The only question is, when a tool speaks, will you have the wisdom to listen? Last episode, I finally heard the voices of the tools. The wire stripper taught me precision, the voltage tester awareness, the conduit bender control, and the fish tape patience. For a moment, I thought I had mastered the language of electricians. Harris even let me wear the tool belt as if I had earned it. But on the job site, arrogance is just another hazard, waiting like a live wire to punish you. The next morning, Harris placed a drill in my hands. Remember, he said, fast doesn't mean careless. Respect the torque, respect the bit. His eyes lingered as if he already knew I was going to fail. Around me, the other apprentices circled like vultures. Luis smirked, spinning a tape measure on his finger. Maria stood quietly, but her silence felt heavier than a warning sign. I climbed a short ladder, drill in one hand, a section of conduit in the other. Already I was breaking rule number 1, never climb carrying tools in your hands. My boot slipped on a stray extension cord snaking across the floor. I steadied myself, cheeks burning, and muttered, "Tool belt. Always tool belt." Harris raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The lesson had already cut. I pressed the drill against the conduit mount, the drill bit whined, screeching against the metal. I leaned harder, gripping with sweaty hands inside worn work gloves. Then it happened, cracked, the bit snapped, flying off into the dust. The crew fell silent, then laughter echoed like thunder. Luis shouted, "Careful, rookie, you'll break the whole site before lunch." Shame burned inside me. But then something strange happened. As the drill whirred uselessly in my grip, I felt it humming like a heartbeat. In that vibration, I heard its whisper. Balance, respect. Control me, don't fight me. My own tools were correcting me. I replaced the bit with shaking fingers, checked the chuck, steadied my breathing. This time, I didn't force it. I let the drill's weight do the work, keeping the speed steady, applying pressure with control. The hole formed clean and smooth, the conduit fit perfectly. The same crew that laughed now leaned closer. Maria nodded once. Even Luis fell quiet. Harris finally spoke. "Every tool has a voice. Fail to listen, and it will break in your hands. Listen carefully, and it will make you stronger." His gaze met mine. "Do you understand, John?" I swallowed. "Yes, sir. Respect the tool, respect the work." He grunted approval. The rest of the day, I treated every tool differently. Screwdriver became more than a handle of steel. It was precision itself. The multimeter in my pouch was no longer a gadget, but a guardian of truth. Even the utility knife, its sharp edge gleaming, felt like a promise that a careless slip could bleed me dry. Everywhere I looked, tools whispered their lessons. Inspect before use. Store safely. Protect with PPE. Test before touch. At one point, Harris surprised us with a quick check. He pointed at me while holding up a damaged insulated screwdriver. "John, what's the danger here?" I answered before thinking. "Cracked insulation. One spark, and it jumps straight through your hand." Harris gave a rare half smile. "Good you're learning, Tur." Maria tossed me the fish tape again. "Still patient, rookie," she teased. I caught it and replied, "Patient enough to pull wires, not egos." As the sun dipped and the noise of the site faded, I wiped sweat from my brow. My hands ached, my knees were raw, but something inside me felt steady, stronger than before. The wire stripper gave me precision, the voltage tester awareness, the conduit bender control, the fish tape patience. And now the drill had given me balance and respect. I was building a secret code only electricians understood, a language of tools, safety, and survival. But pride always comes back to test you. Just as I packed up for the evening, Harris walked over, eyes sharp as live current. "Tomorrow," he said, "the tool won't be in your box. It'll be in the ceiling. A hidden cable no one expects. The first apprentice to find it might not survive if he forgets what he's learned." His words thundered in my chest. Hidden cable, alive with power, waiting in the dark. I tightened my tool belt and felt a chill crawl down my spine. Tomorrow wasn't just another lesson, it was survival itself. And deep inside, one question sparked like a live wire. Would I be fast enough to see the danger before it saw me? Last episode, I nearly lost my dignity with the drill. The sound of the drill bit snapping still rings in my ears like mocking laughter. But in that failure, I heard the whisper: balance and respect. By slowing down and listening, I finished the task. That night, Harris warned us coldly. Tomorrow, the tool won't be in your box. It will be above the ceiling. A hidden cable. The first apprentice to touch it without testing might not come back down. I didn't sleep much. One word filled my head: survival. At dawn, we were taken to a half-finished storefront. The air smelled of wet paint, dust, and sweat. A single, portable light threw harsh shadows across dangling conduits. Harris's voice was iron. "Today there are no rehearsals. Before you climb, check your PPE hard hat, safety glasses, work gloves, ear protection, fall protection harness. If you miss one, you don't go up." I touched the tool belt at my waist, loaded with voltage tester, multimeter, insulated screwdriver, utility knife, tape measure, cable ties, marker. They felt less like tools and more like charms, small guardians against the chaos above. I was called first. My boot hit the rung of the extension ladder. Before climbing, I paused and gave myself a silent quiz. "John, is it safe to climb carrying tools in your hands?" The answer was drilled into Mino. 3-point contact. Tools in the tool belt only. I adjusted, freed my hands, and climbed. The ladder trembled beneath me like a living thing, testing my resolve. Above the ceiling, it was worse than I imagined. Dark, cramped, suffocating. Dust poured like snow. The fish tape weighed heavy in my gloves. I guided it forward slowly. Then my hand brushed a cable. Gray, dusty, lifeless. My pride whispered, "Grab it, finish fast." But another voice roared louder. "Test before touch." I pulled the voltage tester from my belt and pressed it against the copper. A red flash exploded. Live current. My chest went cold. One careless grab, and this would have been my obituary. "John, you okay?" Maria called from below. "I'm alive," shouted back, holding the tester like a holy relic. Luis muttered, "Lucky rookie," but I didn't care. The lesson was carved into my bones. Awareness saves lives. I kept working. Maria's portable light cut through the gloom. Luis grudgingly held the ladder steady. I pushed the fish tape gently, pulling, easing it through tight corners, avoiding jams. In my head, I repeated the wire-pulling checklist like a chant. Inspect conduit, gives use lubricant. If needed, gives gentle push. Pull gives secure cable ties, gives check grounding. Step by step, patience over pride. Finally, the tape emerged. I marked it with my marker, pulled in the conductors, and brought them into the junction box. I tested again with the multimeter. 120 volts, polarity correct. With insulated pliers, I stripped the wire, twisted on wire nuts, secured everything with cable ties. I checked the breaker, locked it out with a lockout tagout tag, and confirmed the grounding connection. Every move felt sacred, every precaution a ritual. Then came the foreman's voice, cutting through like lightning. Harris held up a test card. "Quiz, John. If a ground fault occurs, what protects the worker?" The answer was in my mouth before my brain. "The GFCI breaker will trip to protect from shock." He gave the slightest nod. That was all the approval I needed. By the time I climbed down, my gloves were soaked with sweat. My arms ached. But as I twisted the final screw, and Harris closed the panel cover, he called for power. The breaker snapped into place. The lights flickered, then glowed steadily. The entire site erupted in applause. For a moment, I was not a rookie, not a joke. I was the one who lit the dark. But the victory was written in blood. My palm blistered raw, split open from the conduit edges. My shoulder throbbed from strain. It hurt, but it felt like a badge, the first real scar of my trade. First blood. Harris stepped closer, his eyes cold, but steady. John, today you didn't just complete a task, you survived a test. Tools are charms, but your true shield is awareness, control, patience, respect. Forget that, and no tool will save you. That night I sat on my toolbox, watching the dust settle in the glow of work lamps. I replayed the whispers of each tool I had mastered so far. Wire stripper equals precision. Voltage tester equals awareness. Conduit bender equals control. Fish tape equals patience. Drill equals balance. And respect. Together they formed a secret language. A code only electricians could understand, etched now into my blood. I whispered to myself, being an electrician is not about wires, it's about survival. For the first time, I understood the full weight of safety first. But peace didn't last. Luis glared at me with venom. Next time, rookie, let's see if you survive. His words promised danger. Worse, Harris gathered us before we left. Tomorrow, you face a real job site. It's no rehearsals, no second chances. Real clients, real risks.